All right, Maggie. So, because I love explaining stuff, we both got Navicular horses that we love and we would like to ride again one day, but also maybe just keeping them comfortable is important, especially if you're going to use your mare as a broodmare. So anyway, here's a wedge shoe, which is, pretty common and beneficial to a horse with Navicular. The problem I have with just a wedge is this. When you put a wedge on a horse and he's walking on hard ground, the wedge works because it is going to keep the heels elevated. The problem though on soft ground or whatever is that as the horse makes impact, he's been probably walking toe first to get off the heels, but the wedge it's supposed to make him comfortable enough to land heel first. But with all that weight, it's going to sink your heels, and now you just have a regular shoe. But actually, you're going to sink even more because his foot is above the wedge up here, so it's going to sink until the hoof, the frog and the heel area, buttress area, contacts the ground and eliminates the sink. So now we actually, in a sense, with just a wedge, have put more pressure on the deep digital flexor tendon and actually flexed that tendon over the back of the navicular bone, pushing into the navicular bursa even more. And if there's scar tissue on the flexor tendon right underneath that navicular bone, then it's going to rub your bone and then cause bone deformities and lollipops is what they call them when you have those little indentions and pretty much bone decay. So anyway, that's the wedge shoe, and you can kind of see the track that it made. You see that hard shadow where the heel sinks into the ground more than the toe. Of course, and if this horse were to take a step, the heels would sink and then the toe would come in. But so you would get maybe a little bit more toe sink, but that's only after the foot is rocked over. You've already done the damage with the first step, which is a lot deeper than up here. So the wedge actually kind of goes against the idea of heel alleviation when used all by itself. I feel like a wedge shoe would work just fine if you used a pour-in material to fill in all of that space, and then the wedge would probably function properly because you would have that space there. Okay, if you use a wedge pad, you might not use a wedge pad with a wedge shoe because that would jack them up a little bit high. But if you use that wedge pad, you can eliminate some of that heel sink, either this way or this way. Because as the heel sinks in, now the wedge pad is gonna come in contact with the ground. It still leaves a space, but it'll catch that shoe and prevent it from sinking as deep. That's not near as deep, but it's still got some depth. So I guess what I've done, and I'll show you what I've done with Golden Ratio, and it's the first time this horse has loped in the pasture. He lopes up to me when I go to catch him and bring him in a stall to feed him. He's playing with his buddies. He's moving around. He's not 100% sound. We're not ready to go to the barrel race, but he's so much sounder than he was. And I'll show you what I did. I had an old timer tell me to do this, and I thought he was nuts. And then after a while, I just thought, hell, who cares? I mean, the horse is crippled anyway. If I can make him more comfortable just to live, that would be great. And so far, this is week 3.5 weeks, and this horse is so much sounder. So anyway, I'll bust him out and I'll show him what I did.